Alright, so I just recorded the drums for my cover of Golden Brown, which I'm doing with my tape machine over here. Wow, I can't point the camera. The sound you're hearing right now is me bouncing the recorded MIDI drums and a scratch track to the tape machine, so that's happening behind me right now. So I recorded the drums in MIDI because I needed to edit one thing, and that is a cymbal choke at the beginning. My drum kit doesn't like to register cymbal chokes, so I had to manually fix that. And I resisted the temptation to fix my drumming, which certainly I could have done, but I thought it was kind of more in the spirit of what I'm doing to just let it ride. I practiced it a bunch the last 2 days, and I'm not really that good at it, but I think it'll still be okay. So this is going. It's going to take however long the song is. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my plan. I'm just holding the camera right now, sort of low-key style. So I've recorded the drums. I've recorded a scratch track with like a couple guitars and the vocals to help me keep track of what I'm doing on the drums. So I'm putting those two things on tracks 1 and 2 on the tape machine. So the scratch track is track 1, the drums are track 2. So then what I'm going to do on tracks 3 and 4 is add the bass guitar and my synthesizer, and then I'm going to bounce all 3 of those to track 1 in a mono mix and overwrite the scratch track. And then I'm going to go ahead and record another guitar scratch track, because it's like the only way I could figure out how to do this without using the computer as like a bouncing thing, and I just felt like there's nothing wrong with doing that, but I just kind of wanted to do everything in the tape deck just for the, my own edification and gratification. So I'm going to have a mono track with drums, bass, and keys on one track, and then I'm going to record on track 2 a scratch guitar track, over which on tracks 3 and 4 I will sing and perform a guitar solo. I'm going to bounce those 2 tracks together to track 2, I think, and then do the stereo rhythm guitars, and there's like a thing I wanted to do with the vocals at the end, maybe. So I might bounce all the mono stuff, so rhythm section, vocals, and solo guitar to track 1, so I can put like a little left and right panned vocal thing. I think I am going to do that, but I'll let you know. But yeah, so this is done. So now I'm going to go set up the Alright, so what we got going on here: tape deck, bass rig. The amp is guitar amp, actually. It's an Egnater. It's a Tweaker 40, but I've got 6 V6 tubes in it. For bass, 6L6 would probably be better, but don't feel like doing that. Got mic'd up with a Beta 52, which is a kick drum mic. It's working pretty well. I kind of want to get it a little lower on the cone, but the mic stand I've got's not letting me, so whatever. Bag end cab, but it's got an eminence instead of a bag end in it, but it sounds killer. Effects, I've got a tuner. For the love of God, get yourself a tuner. Then I've got Bass Preacher, which is like an okay compressor. Don't have it doing a whole lot, just kind of leveling it out. I've got the master pretty cranked and the gain pretty low, so I'm trying to saturate the power tubes, and then it's just going from the mic into the tape deck. The bass is just like a Squire or Affinity. It's a real cheap P bass, but I've got DiMarzio pickups in it and a Goto bridge, so it actually plays nicer than a lot of the more expensive basses out there, and sounds really good. I'm just running the P bass pickup, don't have the jazz bass in at all because that's just not the sound I'm looking for. Yeah.
It's bass time.
So let's look at the keyboard setup a little bit. I'm going into channel 4. I've got so much gain that I need none from here. I've got a little tiny bit of EQ on the tape channel strip. I'll probably actually, well, it sounds good. I'll leave it alone. I'll record it flat. So over here I've got my Model D. And and I got it set up the way I thought sounded good. And then that is running into my little ART Prochannel II over here, and this thing's pretty much brand new to me. This is actually the first real thing I'm using it on. Can't really see, it's pretty dark back here because there's not a lot of room, but I've got the gain absolutely smashed. Got a little bit of a high pass filter, and then bypass the compressor because I don't need a compressor on a square wave basically. And then got a little bit of EQ going on. It's cutting out. The biggest thing I'm doing is boosting the hell out of the low end. And then I'm cutting a fair amount of 250, and then I'm boosting a little bit at like 500 just to kind of give it a little meat there. And then I'm boosting the highs just a scotch, around 6K. It's a shelf. And yeah, it's not a huge thing, but it sounds tasty. So I'm slamming the gain on the ART, and that gives the synth just that extra gnarliness. That cut at 250 gets rid of all the crap you don't want. The boost around 500 gives it some real beef to it, as does the major low-end boost around 120. And then I'm cutting everything below about 55. I'll probably EQ a little more in the tape deck just to get it to sit just right, but it sounds nasty, so I'm pretty happy with that. The hardest part is I don't actually know how to play keyboards, so been practicing that all afternoon. See how that goes. That might have been good. Let's check. Alright, so I'm pretty happy with that. I think there was like one little mistake in the solo, but I can't hear it when I actually listen back to it, so either I didn't actually make that mistake or there's so much shit going on it doesn't really matter. Kind of leaning towards the latter, and that's, you know, you ever listen to the drums soloed for Superstitious? They sound like cardboard boxes, and one of the fills sounds like Stevie tripped over a flight of stairs. That song did pretty well, so I'm not that worried about it. Next step is bounce the main rhythm stuff, so drums, bass, and keys, down to one track, and that's going to overwrite the scratch guitar, and that's going to give me 3 more tracks to play with. And then I'm going to move over to make another scratch guitar track so I can do the solo and the vocals, and definitely at least bounce those 2 to one track, and probably some other stuff after that. Yeah, should be cool. Alright, so we're back in the wood panel room. That's a coffee table Ed is making. We're back in the wood panel room to record the scratch electric guitar. So we got the Egnater, but instead of going through the bag end, it's going through my Mesa 212, Transatlantic 212. They don't make it anymore, but it's got a pair of V30s in it, and it's awesome. Epi Les Paul, tape deck, SM57. Yeah, scratch track time, and then I'll do guitar solo and vocals. Got the phone, so I've got my lyrics. I can't remember the whole song. I don't know why. I can remember every other song. Like, ever. Never a frown with golden brow! I think that one was better. Right, so for the vocal effects chain, well, the microphone's not there anymore, but microphone is going through the ART. Nothing crazy going on down here. Oh god, let me see if I can make that brighter. Okay, yeah, so it's going through the ART. Nothing crazy, just a little bit of EQ, some kind of slow, what am I at, 3 to 1 compression, and just enough gain to give it some character, but nothing like smashing. Some of the lows out, yeah, nothing too aggressive over here. It's going into the tape machine. On channel 3 here, and I actually, after recorded it, decided to cut some more of the lows out and boost some of the kind of upper mids around like 6K or so. Give it a little more like a lo-fi, like telephone sound. And then the signal, I was recording it this way, it's routing into these pair of guitar pedals. It's a pair of Tech 21s, the Boost DLY and the Boost RVB. I like these for recording with the tape machine because they both have mix knobs, so you can run them 100% wet, which is really nice when you're recording kind of like in parallel like that. so you don't have to mess around with like having 2 copies of your dry signal. So those are really good pedals for using this kind of machine with. And yeah, those just went straight to track 3 as well. Alright, so for the guitar solo, got my Egnater going into my Mesa 212. I'm running it through my little load box here to attenuate 20 dB, so I can just run it at absolute ridiculous full on. And over here on the pedal board, I've got in the effects loop Tech 21 Boost RVB that gives it a little bit of air around it, a little bit of reverb around it, and a little bit of extra level into the power amp, which is nice. And then I've got Keeley Compressor Plus, Sonic Research Turbo Tuner, and Cattle and Bread Echo Rec. And then I've got the channel switch. I'm using the channel switch as a mute switch, so I've got channel 1 just all the way off. And that's why. And then I've got this guy in here. 1 is a tuner, but 2 is a secondary mute switch. So at the beginning of the solo, I'm going to hit this one to turn the whole amp on. And at the end, I'm going to hit this one so that the trails from the delay will be able to keep going for a second. And then I'm using my weird Jazzmaster. It's a Dylan guitar. Has terrible action. It has Duncan P90 in it, like an overwound one. And it's a really cool guitar. It's kind of hard to play, but I like it. And that's what I'm going to be using. To explicit lands, to expose my hands. Alright, so it's rhythm guitar time. So I'm going to do the lead rhythm first because the intro is way easier to do that way. So make the whole thing a little tighter. There's a fly buzzing around and it's annoying as fuck. Again, Egnater into the Mesa Boogie. Going through the load box so I can run it pretty hot without like rattling everything and causing problems. Got the Jazzmaster again, same guitar I'm using on the solo. Pedal board's a lot simpler for the rhythm part. I've still got the RVB boost in the effects loop because I just like what it does. Got the tuner because if you ain't playing in tune, you're square. And then I've got the wah pedal. I've got 2. I decided to go with the Crybaby Classic because I just wanted that like real throaty, like just thick sound. The Vox kind of gives you more like the normal 70s thing, which is cool, but I think for this tune, I want thick. SN57 into the tape deck. Let's do it! So I've got the part figured out pretty well. Some of the stuff with when I turn on the wah and not is just, it's going to change. So I've been kind of doing everything, like practicing a bunch and then doing everything in one like first take kind of thing. So I'm going to try to just do that, and if I accidentally do something weird with the wah, hopefully it's cool. If it's real bad, I'll start over, but mostly just trying to kind of get like a jammy feel on this, because it's fun. Make sure I'm in tune. Alright, so the last thing is actually going to be the most simple rhythm guitar. Just kind of the way it made sense with all the bouncing and stuff. I've recorded that part like 4 times now, so hopefully I can just do it. But here's the rig for that. Same exact amp, and I haven't touched any of the dials. The only thing I've changed is Les Paul for the Jazzmaster. Les Paul, has a shorter scale, and it's got different pickups in it. They're still P90 style, but they're a lot less hot, and they're less compressed and a little thinner, which I think works well for the part. And then I've actually swapped wahs for the Vox one because it's a little less gnarly. I just want to use it for like one part at the end. Let's just do it. I'm getting pretty hungry, so I'm going to do this and then eat lunch and then mix it down to Reaper. I'll do. Cool. So that was it. I forgot to film doing the mix down from the tape deck into the computer, but there wasn't actually a whole lot to do there. I just kind of rode the vocal fader a little tiny bit because the solo and the vocals are at a little different level, but that's about it. So you didn't really miss anything there. So yeah, I put the video for the song in a separate video, so if you haven't seen that already, you can go watch it and hear how the whole thing sounds, and hopefully that was cool to watch. I'm probably going to do some more things like this and, you know, try to keep it engaging. The tape deck's a lot of fun to play with, and yeah, thanks for watching.
Grim!